Hello and welcome back to another great episode of the MPTV Coaches Show. Eric Myers, Ryan Lindley. So, Coach Lindley, we've got a lot of things happening here in Morton Sports. We are totally ramping up, lots of games. The weather's held us back a little bit with these ice snow days, but we are moving forward. So let's go girls basketball.
Yeah, girls basketball, things are going really well. Last two times out, both significant wins. Win over Galesburg on Saturday night.
State-ranked Galesburg.
State-ranked Galesburg, number 3 in the state. Lady Potters entered the game number 6 in the state. I'd be interested to see this week's rankings. My guess would be just a flip-flop where, Lady Potters might move up to that 3-4 line. Galesburg maybe back to that 5-6 line. But, two really good teams. Lady Potters 46-33 winners, really dominated on the defensive side of the court, and then got a pretty easy win against Pekin last night.
Yeah, Mid-Atlantic Conference play. Nice win right there. So we're kind of rolling right now. You had that opportunity maybe to sit down with Coach Becker after the game.
Yeah, so Troy Dowell and I got a chance to sit down with Coach Becker after the game, and we just kind of talked generally about, where the team is right now, a little bit about what his coaching staff does behind the scenes, and then a little bit about the upcoming Pink Night. So let's take a look at that interview.
We wanted to kind of let you talk about, we asked this question, I feel like, a lot, but I feel like it's worth asking every year because obviously, you do such a great job, but you also have such a quality staff. Just take the opportunity to talk a little bit about those people as well.
And I've been spoiled for many, many years. And really, staff includes, Mr. Troy has done. We've our youth program all the way down, the upward teams, the moms and dads that are involved with Heat, our junior high.
Absolutely.
But specifically our high school staff. I've got a great staff. They bring energy. Dakota has done a great job. We've kind of transferred this year, and he's my full-time right-hand guy, my assistant. He's great at breaking down film, putting together scouting reports. He's building awesome rapport with the kids. He's great in all areas on my staff, and I'm thankful for that. And then it's nice to have a player, JC and Claire, bring that energy. They're doing a terrific job with our JV kids. They get a calming influence and a positive perspective on everything. I think we've got the best of everything in our program. I'm trying as I get older and more seasoned, I guess, to delegate and to trust staff. And this staff is one that I do. I can kind of let them do their thing and they can speak their minds and speak their piece. And I feel like we've got a good connected staff, just like our team.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about, breaking down the film and that, because I feel like obviously we do a great job. And it's important the further you go to be prepared, break it down, and every kid knows what the assignment or what the tendencies are of the opponent. So, and I don't feel like every team is committed to doing that and, advantage Morton.
And I wouldn't say it's still the high school level.
Right.
Dakota, we watch far more film, and he watches a lot, and he's able to do that during the day and spends a lot of time in that area. Our kids, we periodically every couple of weeks we'll spend a little bit, do a 15-20 minute film session, and they're receptive and they're watching and they're learning from it. I don't think in general our girls don't watch enough basketball, but we do enough where they are seeing. We'll pick out 2 or 3 things and everybody's being coached at the same time, regardless of who's on that screen. Huddle's a pretty amazing technology.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss without thanking our, Scott Jones funds that Huddle account. And so we send our game film off within about 24 hours. They break it down. It's an awesome thing. You can click, hey, how many rebounds, offensive rebounds for Ryan Lindley tonight? Click on that.
Immediately.
Within seconds, I can see your 4 offensive rebounds. And, we can, same thing with turnovers or anything else. It really makes teaching the game pretty simple.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
It is, and I appreciate the fact that, I think you have the same struggles that we have where you want to get the kids to watch the sport they play, which is sometimes challenging. But, yeah, it's really nice to have that ability to go into Huddle and do that.
And I think there's value to watching it, but then, the time of they're in the classroom as students all day. We want to get them on the floor for skill development and team development, but you have to have a little bit of that. And I think Dakota's terrific at breaking it down and putting together a 10-minute clip of what we need to do and improve upon. And sometimes it's, you sandwich in highlights, learning areas, highlights.
Exactly.
So
right.
it's and sometimes they get a giggle out of watching certain plays, or we watch Ellie Van Mennen take one of her 20 charges this year. There's some powerful moments in watching film.
Absolutely. One other thing, just before we let you go, I know you only have 2 home games left, and one of those is going to be Pink Night, which is next week, Friday. And I know that's obviously, speaking of powerful moments, I think that's always a pretty powerful night. Just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Mrs. Hutchinson, Tara Hutchinson, has really spearheaded an awful lot, but we'll work in conjunction with Tom Schoen and his Blessed Sacrament kids again this year. That his 5th grade team will be here as special guests, but they've also done some fundraising for Illinois Cancer Care. I don't know how many years we've done this. Pretty much we've had some sort of a pink night for my whole career. But it is a powerful night. And our kids have sold T-shirts. I know they're going to put together a hot cocoa stand, I believe, next Sunday here at the high school for a couple hours. So people need to be a lookout for that. You know, our players in the program made treats tonight, had a little bake sale. They're working hard. It's not just about basketball. It's about a cause bigger than all of us. And I think, unfortunately, cancer hits home for about all of us in some way or another. So, and Illinois Cancer Care is a terrific organization, and we appreciate them and what they do. And I think they appreciate our help.
Yeah, that's awesome. One last question for you. Subsectional, right? Next week is the voting, right? Everybody gets seated. What's your take? It's definitely a loaded subsectional. I think somehow, as Ryan and I said, Washington sort of got the lucky draw there, if you can call it that. But it's going to be a tough matchup. But what's your thoughts on that?
Sure. I mean, our program has had tough routes year after year after year, so that's not different. Nope. I think that this year's team, like a lot of others, has a little grit and toughness, and we're building in the right direction, improving. And I think we're going to play our best at the end. Saturday was huge as far as ramifications, seeding wise. I could argue, and I do argue, that we're the number 2 seed in our subsectional, behind Lincoln.
Yeah.
I think we're clearly that number 2, but that's up to coaches to vote on. And that's, as long as we continue to take care of business and stay consistent with a purpose. We had a loss to Peoria Central first game of the season. Some may argue that they're better, but I think that we are clearly better when they don't have Guyton.
That's exactly how we see it.
And I'm going to take that into consideration.
And you have to, right? Because they're not the same team now. I mean,
certainly.
Unfortunately, that they were back then. But Lincoln, obviously, probably the top seed, and I think we deserve the number 2, which is really important because you'd like to go to Galesburg, if Galesburg's 3, get a rematch against them, and not obviously have to necessarily play Lincoln in that first round.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know how other coaches will vote, but right. I feel like I can argue a case for our kids that we're a 2 seed, and we'll just let it fall where it may. But we're either going to go to Galesburg or Geneseo, and it's going to be tough.
Well, as I've seen over certainly the last 7 or 8 years, right? I mean, every year, as you say, we see that, and I'm like, oh man, it's loaded. And guess what? The Potters find a way to get through, and you're only tougher if you can get through that sectional. You always feel good about going to the Super and ended up in Redbird Arena. So
you never know.
See what happens.
You never know. But yeah, that's what we're hoping. That's why we're working hard every day. And who knows? I think it's okay to dream big and to work hard and aspire for that kind of a goal. And we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Coach, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Congrats again.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
So obviously one of those unsung heroes that we're kind of assistant coaches, is those assistant coaches. What do? I mean, they sit on the bench. Sometimes they pull the head coach back from getting all those tees. Make sure they don't get ejected from the game. But I mean, it sounds like they do a lot for our programs.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear him talk about how they use Huddle, and a big shout out to one of your fellow business teachers, Dakota Nyson, and that he's kind of the guy that does the behind the scenes for them with the scouting using Huddle. And we use Huddle for football as well. And I will say, I mean, it is a tremendous resource because, back in the, dark ages of maybe like 5 to 8 years ago, you had to, if you wanted to scout, you literally needed to get in your car and find a time you weren't playing, that team was playing, drive there, watch the game. The ability to not only self-scout, which Coach Becker talked about on Huddle, but to scout the other teams on Huddle, because you can exchange video with them and look at what they do and kind of map out what your strategy is going to be, is really a tremendous resource. And to do that as the head coach by yourself just would be not feasible just based on time. So to have those assistant coaches like Dakota that can do that is really a spectacular thing.
Yeah, obviously. So that's one of those big things that everybody's doing there, and technology is just amazing. So speaking of scouting, who do the Lady Potters got up this week?
Yeah, so they got a game on Saturday. They are going to play Limestone Keystone. It's a team we beat earlier. We're going to go there this time. So sometimes maybe a little harder on the road, but game that Lady Potters are looking to get another victory that'll get them to 20 wins in the season. Regional and sectional seeding is going to be next week. So, you get
that. Take care of business,
yeah,
right?
It's exactly it, right? If you get to 20 wins, you got a great chance at a 2 seed or a 3 seed. Coach Becker was saying that he feels like they're legitimately the 2 seed, but I think even if you're the 3, you're in a good position looking forward into the postseason.
Yeah, and speaking of looking forward into that postseason, we want to avoid Lincoln. So as much as we can do right there, the better. So good job to our Lady Potters. Let's shift gears, boys, a little bit here. So boys had a couple of games as well over the weekend, and we played again last night.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, kind of look at the positive first is you go back over the weekend. They had a fantastic win over a Niles North team that came down. They played in the Metamora Shootout or Metamora Classic, whatever they call it.
Whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
It was a one-day thing.
Yeah, one-day thing, but Morton and Niles North, tremendous win for the Potters over a Niles North team that came in at 14-5. So
pretty good.
Certainly not a team that you would say, oh, well, we beat them by a bunch. It doesn't matter. No, it does. I mean, there's a really good win. West Gudeman, 37 points in that ball game.
Plus, it's one of those things where you play a team that you're not really familiar with, and you get to experience different things, maybe a different offense, maybe some different defenses, some different guys you don't know that you don't play against all season, all summer, in the fall. So different people.
Yeah, and again, I think, it's kind of maybe it feels a little bit more like a tournament game in a way because you're at a neutral site. You are, as you say, playing people you haven't really played before, so that's something more common in like a sectional or something like that. And, to get a really good win like that, I think had them feeling really solid. Then on Tuesday night, they had to go back to Metamora to take on the state-ranked Redbirds and unfortunately dropped that game. But the positive, the way I'm going to look at it is that all that does is put us into a tie with Metamora for first place in the conference and hopefully sets up a rematch in the postseason where the winner will get to advance maybe to like a super sectional or something like that.
Yeah, so great game last night over there in Metamora. Just fell a little bit short, but the Potters are sitting at 20 wins, which is pretty impressive right there. So what do we got going up this week?
Yeah, so this week, boys basketball is home twice, both on Friday night and Saturday afternoon. That's just a little note there. If you're used to the Saturday evening 6:30 starts, this is going to be a start at 4:30 against St. Joe Ogden, and then the Friday night game against Pekin, probably the one that's more of the headliner Mid-Illini Conference game. And, obviously the Potters beat Pekin the first time at Pekin, but Pekin's coming off a big win over Washington, so Pekin's feeling really good about themselves right now.
Dunlap on Saturday, so they're 2-0 here in 2014 on Mid-Illini Conference play, so another good test. So come out to the Potter Dome this weekend, see basketball, see cheerleaders, see dance, see people calling the game. But if you can't get there, obviously NFH Network, Morton Potter TV, we'd love to have you for that. But obviously packing the Potter Dome is where it's at right there. So let's shift gears. Mid-Illini Conference Wrestling meet was this past weekend.
Yeah, second place as a team, so you feel really good about that. Kind of gear up for regionals, but you look at this area, wrestling's pretty solid in the Mid-Illini. I feel second is pretty good, and honestly, a lot of those teams that are in your conference are going to be in your regional, so you feel like you're sitting in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, as you go through the list there, we're not going to read them all up, but lots of first and second place finishes that are a wide variety of weight classes right there. So great job to our wrestling team as they battled on and get ready for their postseason. So speaking of postseason, Potters Bowling, what's happening?
They are going to state, so look at that. Had a state finals team in the fall season with girls volleyball. You can get a state finals team in the winter season with boys bowling, and we hope maybe another sport or two could do it as well, or maybe some individuals. But the team is going. We talked last week about the possibility of bowling. You could go as an individual or as a team. Pretty good. You send the whole team.
Yeah, pretty amazing right there. So they're going to be heading to state, I believe, this weekend. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this is the first time Potters Bowling has ever gone to state.
It is the first time Potters Bowling has ever gone to state, although it is worth noting it is year 2.
Well,
that's probably in a way another positive, right? If you could set the expectation that you were going to go to state in 50% of your seasons, you would have an absolutely outstanding program. We talk about girls basketball and all the state appearances that we've made there, and I don't know what the percentage is, but it's probably pretty good, but it's not 50%. So
50% is pretty good.
Yeah,
we'll take it.
Yeah.
So hats off to our boys bowling team as they head up to state this weekend. So, Coach, any final thoughts?
I think just, kind of as we talk about it, right? This is an exciting time. Best of luck to the bowlers. I think that's the biggest thing. You get to go to state. Hopefully they cherish the opportunity not only to, hopefully go and compete and be successful, but when you get that opportunity to compete at the state level, I think that's always something pretty special.
Let's take home some hardware. So, if in case you missed it, all the stuff that we try to do is at Morton Potter TV on YouTube. You can try to catch as much as possible. All of our live broadcasts are via the NFHS network or on ITV through the Morton channel that way. So, for Ryan Lindley and Eric Myers, until next week, thank you.